That is where some of your marriages are right now. Some of your marriages are just drifting with the current. And let me tell you what could happen if you continue in this drift. You will drift further and further away from that connection and joy that you're looking for. Are you in a medical marriage that's beginning to notice a drift? If so, I want you to know you are not alone. And when we are drifting or on autopilot, right? When we're just mindlessly going through life, we are on autopilot and we use all kinds of distraction techniques to navigate it. Like we try and control things, we try and micromanage, we might defend, we might protect, we might withdraw, we might try and people please, right? Or have everything perfect, right? These are just a few of a list of about 50 ways that we drift through our relationship stress, right? This drifting is not intentional. It's like I remember when we were kids, we went to the beach with my parents and their best friends and my cousins. And my cousin was on a raft and she was out on the raft and the parents were sitting on the beach and some of us were swimming, some of us were on the beach. And the parent that was swimming thought the kid was with the parents on the beach and vice versa. You know how that goes. We've all had that situation happen at some point in our life. Well, my cousin was laying on that raft and she was probably like 7 years old at the time, maybe. I don't know, maybe even younger. And she was drifting and she had no idea she was drifting. And she was drifting with the tide downstream, down the ocean, right? So she drifted probably 4 or 5 or 6 lifeguard stands away. And we were looking for her panicking, right? So we went to the lifeguard and, they're calling walkie talkie, walkie talkie. So for about a half an hour, we had a huge scare. She had no idea what was going on because she was drifting. She was on autopilot. She was just drifting with the current. That is where some of your marriages are right now. Some of your marriages are just drifting with the current. And let me tell you what could happen if you continue in this drift. You will drift further and further away from that connection and joy that you're looking for. You will drift further and further apart from the people that mean the most to you. Just like my cousin drifted further and further apart from the people that meant the most to her. That happens to us too. And so these patterns that we get into are really the root cause of the disconnection in all of our relationships when we are living in chronic survival mode. And I just want to say that chronic survival mode is the norm in medicine right now. Let's face it, things are tough in medicine, right? We have been conditioned since medical training start to forego bathroom breaks, to skip meals, and to work to the point of physical and mental exhaustion. We've been conditioned to think that this is a badge of honor because that's what they told us in training without actually saying those words, right? That's what they trained us. They trained us as if you can be tough and push yourself aside and plug through, you're a star student. You are a star resident. You are a star nurse. You are a star PA, nurse practitioner, whatever it is. We were taught that self-abandonment is a badge of honor. And we've been trained to stuff any emotional connection with our patients or our colleagues. We've been trained to see it as weakness. We've been trained to see emotions as weakness. And what I'd like you to know is that this mentality has been carried over from decades of misinformation on emotions, on the nervous system, and on what true strength really, really looks like, right? True strength looks like being self regulated, showing up curious, showing up to see the possibilities, showing up truly seeing, hearing, and understanding the person in front of you. That is what true strength is about. It's not about pretending those things, it's about being those things. That's where we're going here. We're talking about who we have been called to be. Who we have been called to be. So, because this mentality has been drilled in us since our training started about what true strength looks like, we really need to rethink some of these patterns before they ruin our relationship and rob the joy right out of the life and work that we've been doing, right? You and I, all of us, we've entered medicine because we desire to help other human beings. Yet something has shifted in our hearts and souls. We've become cynical, we've become exhausted, we've become totally depleted of energy for the things that are most important to us. This is a survival response. And it makes sense because you probably think that if you felt all of the hard things that you see every day, you'd probably crumble in a ball, right? I am here to tell you that there's a better way. And I am here to tell you that giving yourself some space to process would be human. Right now, you might be saying, space? What? What space? Process? What the heck does that even mean? You're probably saying that right now because those are words. Those words don't have any meaning to you because they are not familiar, right? You might know the words in some off the top of your head way, but you don't know them fully from an experiential point of view. And that's what I'd like to talk with you about. Um, I want you to know before we even dive into this that you're not alone. You're not the only medical professional feeling this. Our family continues to navigate this stress of the careers that we have chosen. And many of us have chosen it because we are compassionate and we desire to help the hurting. Many of us have been running towards the crisis our whole lives while the rest of the world runs away from them. This is how we were wired, right? This is how we were wired. So here's the thing. In order to run at this pace in survival mode long term, we will begin to notice breakdowns in our life. It's inevitable because this way of living works until suddenly it doesn't, right? And if you're in this position where it's suddenly not working, you know what I'm saying because this pattern was how you lived your life. And then suddenly one day you hit a wall and it stopped working. Things started to disintegrate. You started to feel symptoms in your shoulders and your neck, maybe back pain, maybe physical symptoms, maybe inflammation. There are all kinds of ways that your body will inform you that this is no longer working for you. Okay? We're having breakdowns in our physical health, breakdowns in our relationships, and breakdowns in our ability to navigate the stress without anxiety. And the other effects are just so numerous. The truth is, you were not meant to live with adrenaline pumping through your veins nonstop. Not everything in life is a crisis, right? These stress responses were meant to be um, just incremental things that happen to keep you safe in the face of immediate danger, like a lion or a tiger or a bear, or crossing the street and an oncoming car is coming. That's when we need it. But guess what? Our lives are, the anxiety and the adrenaline is pumping so hard through our blood and body. And it's become such a way of life for us that it's affecting our bodies and it's affecting our relationships. So, this pattern of facing stress has worked most of your life to help you succeed, but it's not working anymore. This is why you need to develop new tools right now to navigate your high stress career successfully. So, when you get to this point of noticing symptoms of the chronic energy drain, the fatigue, the disconnection, the arguing in your relationships, most people will do one of two or three things. Okay. And I'm just, maybe you fit into this category, maybe you don't. They will look to change jobs, right? One thing that they look to do is maybe the grass is greener over there. If I work in that unit, if I leave medicine, if I retire, right? Looking to change jobs. Other things that people do are looking to change their spouse. The problem is with my spouse, it's with our relationship. I'm just not in love anymore. They just don't understand me. We're just drifting apart. There's no connection, there's no fire. We lost that fire that we once had. We lost the passion. That's the second mistake that I see medical professionals make. And the third mistake I see them make is trying to control their environment. This is when they go into overdrive and start micromanaging everything and everybody around them. These are external pseudo solutions to deal with what we're experiencing inside. Now, the latest neuroscience advancements in applied neuroscience have shown us that your brain and body need to learn new ways of managing stress. The old ways of pushing it aside, stuffing it down, pushing it aside are not cutting it, right? Changing your spouse, changing your environment are not going to work because your brain is going to go with you wherever you go. You must start on the inside and change your brain and body from a state of reactivity to becoming responsive again. This is for you if you are one of those people who want to do something about that dissatisfaction you're experiencing. And you want to do something about the dissatisfaction that doesn't require you leaving your spouse, micromanaging every person in your pathway, or changing your job. Okay? So, for those who choose to remain in autopilot, the skyrocketing rates of burnout and suicide in medicine will speak for themselves. And I want to repeat this because it is a choice to keep doing things the same way you've always done them, expecting different results. Actually, Einstein calls it insanity. Um, so let's make a choice to grow into new healthy patterns of decision making, connection, and problem solving. In this video, I want us to focus on our relationships at home because the condition of your relationship determines the condition of your life. The condition of your relationship determines the condition of your life. So, right now, what is the condition of your relationship? Because that is the indicator of where your life is at right now. So, you may be at the point where you're just enduring a lifeless relationship because it's just the way it is. And I'd like to point out that that is just a leftover faulty mindset that has been built into your training to self abandon. That is a faulty mindset that is keeping you in self-abandonment. Or you might think, I'll work on my relationship when I have more time. Can I beg you, please? I'm begging you, please do not do this. You can have joy and connection right now, even if the hours of medicine don't change, even if medicine doesn't change, even if you cannot see a way out right now. You can change this. So it is possible to rekindle that love that you had with your spouse when you first met. Yeah, it's possible. What if there were other options? What if disrupting the way you interact with stress could solve it all? There are certain behaviors that indicate whether you are reacting from a place of above the line or responding from a place of above the line or reacting from a place below the line. Now, like I said before, we all flow in and out of this. So this is normal. I don't want anyone to beat themselves up, right? But here's the fact. When your demands at work or at home exceed your resources, your inner resources, the stuff that's happening inside of you, when the outside demands and all the demands of the people are greater than the resources inside of you, you begin a downward spiral to reactivity. This is a fact, scientific fact. You'll notice, like when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, overwhelmed, right? You become more reactive, you snap. You might lose your patience, right? Things like that are clear evidence for you of that reactivity. So, the following information that I'm going to share with you comes from one of my trainings. It's been adapted from one of my trainings with the Conscious Leadership Group. And so, as I say, Conscious Leadership Group, right now you're saying, oh, sounds woo woo, right? But let me just define consciousness for you. And you're a medical professional, you know what consciousness is, but I want to define it for you so that we are using the same definition. Being conscious is defined as aware of and responding to one's surroundings. Being aware of and responding to one's surroundings. It's being present. It's being present. And when we are present, we feel alive. Okay. So, as an example, think back on the last sunset you saw, right? You're looking at the sunset and you were just in that moment. You were taking in the beauty, right? You were experiencing maybe awe, maybe gratitude. What I want you to know is we get to live in the present now. And for many of us, this feels foreign. Okay. We do not need to live in a space of reactivity the rest of our life. We can start responding intentionally. So back to reactivity versus responsiveness. When we are in a state of reactivity, we are considered below the line. And when we're below the line, we're constantly draining that energy out of us. It's a state of defensive resistance, and it leads to recycling drama all over again. So let me share my screen with you and show you what some of the characteristics are of being below the line. Let's just look right now at the behaviors for a moment. Look at the behaviors, which is the middle column. And when you see these behaviors, which behaviors in this column do you see repeating themselves over and over again in your life? Now, it's not a problem. This is just self-awareness. So just maybe think of one or two that you see repeating themselves over and over. Just know that reactivity is subtle. When you've been living in this state of reactivity for most of your life, for decades, um, you just got to the ground zero, the starting point is just noticing, right? It's noticing, and it's only when you notice that you can change and respond in healthy, energy gaining ways instead of energy draining ways. Now, let's look at some of the statements that might go with this. I should, they can't. I'm right, they're wrong. It's hard. I'm trying. It's not my fault. I'm confused. I have to. You made me. I'm sorry. You always do this. Now, think about that, right? And think about what is showing up for you in your relationships right now. Just to compare what two different states look like, right? I want to share my screen with you and show you what above the line looks like. Above the line, or let's start with the behaviors again, right? When we are behaving from above the line, we might pause and take a deep breath or sigh. Sighing and taking a deep breath are your nervous system's way of resetting, recalibrating, right? We might question your beliefs. You might take responsibility. You're listening intentively, intentionally to understand what the other person is saying instead of jumping to conclusions and filling in the gap. You might be appreciating other people. You're creating a win-win situation or win-win solutions. You might be playful. So some statements that come from being above the line are, what can I learn from this? How is the opposite true or as true as this, right? How is this familiar to me? I appreciate you for, I take responsibility for, I agree to, I choose to. These statements are more of above the line statements, right? These statements are, once again, more conscious. Now, let go of the woo woo sounding there, right? It's about being present. It's about feeling alive. It's a state of intentionality instead of going through the motions in status quo. So, are you willing to look at your relationship and live with intentionality? Once again, even if you chose just 4 behaviors on here, you could change your whole relationship. Even if you just chose to breathe, to appreciate, to create a win-win for both parties involved, and to add play to your relationship, you could potentially change your whole relationship. So when we let go of knowing it all and being right and having to know the next steps, what happens is we step into acceptance and trust more deeply. We become responsive instead of reactive. We become intentional. This is true in our marriage. This is true in our work. This is true in our parenting and all of our relationships. So imagine for a moment how you can transform your life and your personal world by becoming conscious or present. You might be thinking, if I let go of power, of my control, and I step into curiosity, things are going to spin, right? Things are going to feel uncomfortable. And what I want you to know is that letting go of control and stepping into curiosity is really about stepping into a power position. It's about taking responsibility for your own thoughts. It's about taking responsibility for your actions and your beliefs. So, loosening my grip on needing to be right is a power move. Okay. It's a power move in your relationship. Now, right now, you're saying, I'm fully committed in my relationship and I still feel disconnected. And you can be in a fully committed relationship and feel disconnected and drifting on that raft, just like my cousin was, right? Let's face it, medicine has us running on empty most of the time. And the area that suffers the most is intimacy at home. So, below the line thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs are energy draining actions. So, no wonder you come home with nothing left for the things that are most important to you. The first thing I want to say, you're not alone. Thousands of medical professional families have been surveyed, and they state their number one concern is loneliness. Now, these are people who are surrounded by people all day long, yet they feel lonely. They feel disconnected. They feel like their life is dull, lifeless, and boring. These are committed individuals that think that this is just the way it is and it's just the way it's going to be till retirement. But that's a flat out lie. And now you see that it's reactivity from below the line thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that are keeping you stuck there. So you can build your intimacy now. You get to do that. You can build it now. And even if nothing changes at work or at medicine, even if you are exhausted, you can change this without working harder or doing more. I'd like to do a little exercise. Let's just look at the statements on the list of being below the line again. Let's go back to that list and look at these statements. Now, I want you to pick just one statement here. One statement. How about we pick, I should help out with the PTA? Random, right? We're going to just pick that statement. We're going to take some of the work from an author called Byron Katie. And what she does is she has these questions that she calls the work. So right now, I'd like you to do the work by just challenging that statement that we called on. I should serve in the PTA, or I should do, you fill in the blank, right? I'd like to ask you right now to reflect. Is that statement that you're believing true? Is it true? Answer yes or no. Is it true that you should do that? And then the second question is, can you absolutely know it's true? Yes or no? The third question is, how do you react when you believe that thought to be true? So for me, when I believe I should be doing something that I'm not doing, I feel shame, I feel guilt, I feel condemnation, downward spiral, right? Scarcity thinking, right? Below the line thinking. So, how do you react when you feel those feelings? You might lash out at your spouse, right? You might react in certain ways, right? What happens when you believe that thought to be true? Notice your emotions. Notice the outcomes that you're getting and how you treat the other person when you believe that to be true. Now, this is just about, I should be doing blank. Who would you be without that thought? That's your next question. What would it look like in your relationship if you didn't think that thought? What are the possibilities? What might you be missing in the situation? Can you become curious, or are you willing to become curious? What did you notice from this exercise? I'm going to stop here. Like I said, I could talk all day, but I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to post another video below to do another little exercise that might be fun. And if you like this teaching, I have a short mini course that's just $97, just a drop in the bucket. $97, you can get the mini course. Just reach out to me and I'll send you the link. That will go into really 6 videos that will help you walk through some of these things to really reset your relationship. Okay, I'm glad you were here, and I'll talk to you soon.